A monster had been chained beneath the Alpha King's castle for 7 years. Warriors feared him. Guards refused to go near him. No one dared touch the iron muzzle covering his face. Then one stormy night a starving Omega servant heard him crying. She walked into the dungeon and removed the muzzle with her bare hands. The beast transformed into a prince everyone believed was dead. But before she could understand what she had done, the Alpha King appeared and looked at her with horror. Because the girl who freed his brother was also his fated mate. And before sunrise he would reject her and lose a family he never knew he had. The scream from the dungeon did not sound like a monster. It sounded like a heartbreaking. Thunder rolled above Ravencrest Castle and rain hammered the stone walls. Servants hurried through the halls with their heads down. No one wanted to be awake on nights like this. The beast below the castle always became restless during storms. But one girl stopped walking. Lyra Ashwood stood in the corridor with a wooden bowl of water in her hands. Her long silver blonde hair clung to her cheeks from the rain. Her dress was old and patched in many places. Her hands were rough from years of work. Then she heard it again. A cry. Soft. Painful. Almost human. The old stable keeper beside her turned pale. "Do not go down there, child." "What is down there?" she asked. "Death," he whispered. Another cry echoed through the castle. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She had spent her entire life caring for wounded animals. She knew the sound of suffering. It reached places in her heart that she could never ignore. She set the bowl down. The old man grabbed her arm. "Please do not." But she was already walking. She took a lantern from the wall and stepped toward the spiral staircase. Each step downward felt colder. The air smelled of wet stone and old blood. Chains rattled somewhere in the darkness. A low growl rose from below. Then silence. The staircase ended before a massive iron door. It was slightly open. The old keeper stood behind her, trembling. "I have worked in this castle for 40 years, and I have never entered that room." "Then stay here," Lyra said softly. She pushed the door. It creaked open. The lantern light spilled into the darkness. And she saw him. The wolf was enormous, bigger than any creature she had ever imagined. His fur was black as midnight and covered with scars. Heavy chains wrapped around his body and sank into his skin. His breathing was slow and painful. Then she saw the muzzle. An iron cage covered his mouth. The metal had cut so deeply that blood had dried around it. The sight made her stomach twist. Who could do something so cruel? The wolf slowly lifted his head. Silver eyes looked directly into hers. She expected rage. She expected hatred. Instead she saw sorrow. A single tear slid down his face. The old keeper gasped behind her. "By the moon goddess." The beast lowered his head, as if bowing to her. Lyra took one step forward, then another. The chains rattled. The wolf did not move. "You were hurt," she whispered. The silver eyes never left her. She reached out slowly. The old man shouted, "Do not touch him." But something strange happened. The wolf leaned closer. He wanted her touch. Her fingers brushed his fur. Warm. Soft. He closed his eyes. A low sound came from his throat. Not anger. Relief. Her heart broke. No creature deserved this. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. The wolf opened his eyes. Another tear fell. Suddenly a strange warmth spread through her body. A whisper entered her mind. "Free him." She stepped back. The voice was not hers. She looked around. No one else had spoken. Again it came. "Free him." She stared at the iron muzzle. The old keeper shook his head. "Please, child." Everyone who came near him died. Yet the wolf looked at her with such trust, such sadness. Without understanding why, she raised her hands toward the lock. The old keeper nearly screamed. No. The wolf remained perfectly still. The ancient lock was covered in rust. Lyra wrapped her fingers around it. Cold metal touched her skin. Her heartbeat became louder. The whisper came one last time. "Free him." She pulled. Nothing happened. She pulled harder. Then the lock broke. The sound echoed through the dungeon like thunder. Everything changed. The wolf threw back his head. A roar exploded from his chest. Wind burst through the room. The lantern flame danced wildly. The chains snapped one after another. Light poured from the beast. Lyra stumbled backward. Bones cracked. The huge body changed. Fur disappeared. The creature shrank. The old keeper fell to his knees in terror. The light slowly faded. A man lay on the stone floor. Tall, broad-shouldered, Dark hair touched his face. Scars covered his skin. Silver eyes stared at her. He looked exhausted, broken, but beautiful. The man slowly pushed himself upright. For several long moments, he simply looked at her. Then his lips moved. "You freed me." His voice was rough from years of silence. Lyra could barely breathe. "Who are you?" The man smiled sadly. "A ghost." Before she could ask another question, footsteps thundered above. Voices filled the staircase. Torches appeared. Soldiers rushed into the dungeon. Their swords were drawn. Then everyone suddenly stepped aside. A man entered. He wore black armor and a dark red cloak. Power seemed to surround him like a storm. Golden eyes swept across the room. The Alpha King, Cale Ravencrest, the ruler of the North. He stopped moving. His eyes widened. "No." The word left him like a breath. The silver-eyed man slowly stood. "Brother." The dungeon fell silent. Lyra looked from one man to the other. "Brother." The beast was the Alpha King's brother. "Impossible." Cale looked as if he had seen a ghost. "You are dead," he said quietly. The dark-haired man gave a bitter smile. "That was the story you told everyone." The Alpha King's face hardened. "Guards." No one moved. The soldiers looked terrified. "I said guards." Swords were finally raised. The dark-haired man stepped in front of Lyra. "You chained me for 7 years, and still you fear me." Cale clenched his fists. "You should have stayed forgotten." A painful silence filled the dungeon. Then the stranger spoke. "You imprisoned the wrong son." The words hit Cale like a blade. His face lost all color. "What did you say?" Before another word could be spoken, a strange heat suddenly spread through Lyra's chest. She gasped. A golden thread appeared before her eyes. It stretched across the room, straight to the Alpha King. Cale looked at her. His golden eyes widened in shock. "Mate." The word formed silently between them. He was her fated mate, the most powerful alpha in the kingdom, the man who had imprisoned his own brother, the man who looked at her now as though the world had suddenly changed. Neither of them moved. Neither of them breathed. Then soft footsteps echoed from the staircase. A woman appeared. She was beautiful. Dark hair, perfect clothes, cold green eyes. Celine Blackthorne, the future queen. She looked at Cale, then at Lyra. Then she saw the golden bond. For one tiny moment her face changed. The hatred in her eyes was terrifying. Then she smiled. A sweet smile. A dangerous smile. And Lyra suddenly understood something. Freeing the beast had not ended a nightmare. It had only opened the door to one. Because the woman standing at the stairs looked ready to kill her. The dungeon felt smaller. The air itself seemed to stop moving. Lyra stood frozen between two brothers and one furious woman. The golden bond still glowed before her eyes. She had heard stories about the mate bond since she was a child. Every wolf dreamed of finding the one person chosen by the moon goddess. Yet now that moment felt nothing like a dream. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Alpha King Cale stared at her. Shock filled his face. Confusion followed. Then something darker appeared in his eyes. Fear. Not fear of her. Fear of what this meant. Celine slowly descended the last step. She looked beautiful and calm, but her fingers were clenched so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. She stopped beside Cale. "Who is this girl?" she asked softly. No one answered. Her eyes moved to the silver-eyed man. A small gasp escaped her lips. "Prince Darius. Everyone believed you were dead." Darius laughed quietly. A sad laugh. "I almost was." His eyes never left Cale. 7 years in chains can do that to a man. Lyra looked at the Alpha King. His face had become hard again. Cold. Like a door closing. "Take him back to his cell," Cale ordered. The guards did not move. "No chains in this kingdom can hold me anymore," Darius said. For a moment it looked as though the two brothers might attack each other. Then Cale looked at Lyra again. The golden bond still connected them. A muscle moved in his jaw. "Who are you?" he asked. The question hurt, not because of his words, but because of the way he said them. As if she were a stranger. As if the bond between them meant nothing. "I am Lyra Ashwood," she answered quietly. "An Omega servant." Silence. Celine suddenly smiled. "An Omega." Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. Surely there is some mistake. The moon goddess would never choose an Omega servant for a king. The words struck Lyra like stones. She lowered her eyes. She had heard similar things all her life. Worthless. Unwanted. Too weak. Too ordinary. Darius stepped closer to her. Watch your tongue, Celine. Her smile never changed. I only speak the truth. Cale remained silent. That silence hurt even more. The bond inside Lyra trembled. She looked at him. Say something. Defend me. Tell her she is wrong. But he said nothing. Then footsteps echoed above. More guards arrived. Then servants. Then nobles. News traveled quickly inside castles. Within minutes the dungeon was crowded. Whispers filled the air. The dead prince has returned. The Alpha found his mate. An Omega. A servant. The words spread like fire. Cale's expression darkened. He hated attention. He hated weakness. And right now the entire kingdom was looking at him. An Alpha King mated to an Omega servant. Celine gently touched his arm. The entire kingdom is watching. You must think carefully. Darius narrowed his eyes. Do not listen to her. Cale ignored him. He looked at Lyra. She looked so small standing there. Her dress was old. Her hands were rough. Rainwater still clung to her hair. She looked nothing like a queen. And yet the bond pulled at him. Something deep inside him wanted to walk toward her. To touch her. To protect her. But another thought screamed louder. She freed Darius. She brought his greatest secret into the light. Nothing about tonight made sense. Who sent you to the dungeon, he asked. No one. Why were you there? I heard someone crying. A few people laughed. An Omega followed a cry and uncovered the kingdom's greatest secret. Impossible. Cale's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe that? It is the truth. Her voice was soft, honest. But he could not think clearly. The return of Darius. The bond. The crowd. Everything was happening too fast. Then Celine leaned closer. This could be a trap. The words entered his mind like poison. A trap. Perhaps Darius had used the girl. Perhaps they had planned this together. Cale looked at Lyra again. Her blue eyes were filled with confusion and pain. Yet doubt had already entered his heart. What if she was lying? What if she had been sent here? Darius seemed to understand what was happening. Do not make the same mistake twice, brother. Cale ignored him. He stepped toward Lyra. The entire dungeon became silent. The golden bond between them glowed brightly. Then Cale spoke. I reject you. The words echoed through the room. For a second no one breathed. Lyra's eyes widened. No. This could not be happening. I reject you as my mate and future Luna. Pain exploded inside her chest. She staggered backward. The bond snapped like glass. A cry escaped her lips. The pain was unbearable. Far worse than any wound. Far worse than hunger. Tears filled her eyes. Around her whispers began. He rejected her. The Alpha King rejected his mate. An Omega. Poor thing. Some people even smiled. Celine did. She looked almost pleased. Darius stared at his brother in disbelief. You fool. Cale said nothing. He forced himself to look away from Lyra. Because if he looked at her any longer he might take the words back. Lyra could barely stand. Everything inside her hurt. She had found her mate only to lose him moments later. She had never even dreamed of becoming a Luna. She had never wanted a crown. She only wanted kindness. Instead she had been humiliated before the entire castle. The old stable keeper quietly wiped his eyes. Even he looked heartbroken. Darius moved toward her. She nearly fell and he caught her. Easy. She looked up at him. Why? Her voice broke. Why did he reject me? Darius had no answer. Because even he could not understand his brother anymore. Cale turned away. Take her out of my sight. The words felt like another knife. Lyra's tears finally fell. She gently pulled away from Darius. Then she walked toward the stairs. No one stopped her. No one followed her. The servants moved aside as she passed. Some looked sad. Some looked curious. Others looked relieved. She climbed the stairs slowly. One step. Then another. Her chest still burned. The bond was gone. But the pain remained. She reached her tiny room near the servants' quarters and closed the door. Silence filled the space. Then she broke. She slid to the floor and cried. Outside the storm continued. Inside the castle the return of the prince had already become the only topic anyone discussed. But none of them knew another secret had already begun. Hours passed. Finally Lyra wiped her tears. A strange sickness rolled through her stomach. She frowned. Then suddenly she leaned over and became ill. When it passed she remained still. A terrible thought entered her mind. Her monthly cycle had not come. Not last month. Not this month. Her hands slowly moved to her stomach. The room suddenly felt cold. No. It could not be. But deep inside her heart she already knew. The mate bond had formed for a reason. And before it had been broken, the moon goddess had given her one final gift. A child. Perhaps more than one. A tear slid down her cheek. The Alpha King had rejected her. But she was no longer alone. She placed both hands over her stomach. At that exact moment footsteps stopped outside her door. A shadow appeared beneath it. Then came a soft knock. Lyra's heart began to pound. A familiar voice spoke. Open the door. It was Prince Darius. And he sounded terrified. The knock came again. Soft. Urgent. Lyra quickly wiped her tears and stood. Her legs still felt weak from the rejection. She opened the door only a little. Prince Darius stood outside. He had changed clothes, but the scars on his face and neck could still be seen. 7 years in chains had left their marks on him. His silver eyes looked troubled. You need to leave this castle tonight, he said. Lyra blinked. Leave? Why? Darius looked down the empty hallway before stepping inside and closing the door. Because someone wants you dead? The word sent a chill through her. Dead. Who? I do not know yet, but I saw the way Celine looked at you. Lyra remembered those cold green eyes. She looked as though she hated me. She does, but she has never even met me. Darius gave a bitter smile. You made a mistake tonight. You removed a muzzle that should never have existed. You uncovered secrets that powerful people wanted buried forever. He looked at her carefully. And you are the rejected mate of an Alpha King. That alone makes you dangerous. Silence filled the room. Rain tapped against the small window. Lyra lowered her eyes. I never wanted any of this. I know. Darius sounded almost gentle. That is why you must survive. A sudden pain twisted inside her chest. She placed a hand over her stomach. Darius noticed immediately. Are you hurt? She hesitated. No. It is nothing. But another wave of sickness rolled through her. She sat down slowly. The prince stared at her. Then his eyes widened. No. He whispered it to himself. What? He looked directly at her. Tell me the truth. She swallowed. I think I am carrying a child. The room became completely still. Darius slowly sat down across from her. Kale's child. She nodded. A tear slid down her cheek. I only found out moments ago. For a long time he said nothing. Then he leaned back and closed his eyes. The moon goddess truly has a strange sense of humor. Lyra looked frightened. What am I going to do? Darius opened his eyes. Protect your child, no matter what happens. She touched her stomach again. A child. She had barely accepted the truth herself. Then another knock echoed through the room. This one was loud, aggressive. Darius stood immediately. His expression darkened. Stay behind me. The door burst open. 3 soldiers stepped inside. Their hands rested on their swords. The leader bowed slightly. The Alpha King requests the girl. At this hour? Yes. Darius narrowed his eyes. Then why are your blades already drawn? The soldiers did not answer. A terrible silence filled the room. The prince slowly stepped forward. Who sent you? Still no answer. Then one of the men moved. Too quickly. A knife flashed through the air. Straight toward Lyra. Darius caught the soldier's arm before the blade could strike. Everything exploded into motion. The room became chaos. A table crashed. A chair broke. The prince threw one attacker against the wall. Another lunged at him with a sword. Lyra stumbled backward in shock. These were not soldiers coming with a message. These men had come to kill her. Darius punched one of them so hard he flew across the room. Run, he shouted. She did not move. Run now. A sword sliced through the air. The prince caught it with his bare hand. Blood ran down his fingers. Lyra finally turned and ran. She rushed into the hallway. Behind her she could hear fighting. Heavy blows. Broken furniture. Angry voices. Then a terrible roar. The prince had shifted. Servants screamed. Doors opened. People scattered. Lyra ran through the corridor with tears in her eyes. She did not know where she was going. She only knew she had to survive. For her child, a huge black wolf suddenly appeared beside her. Darius. His silver eyes found hers. Climb on. She hesitated only a second. Then she climbed onto his back. The prince raced through the castle. Fast. Silent. Like a shadow. The storm outside had grown worse. Rain poured from the sky. They reached a hidden gate behind the stables. Darius shifted back into his human form. His breathing was heavy. Blood covered his arm. "Take this path." He handed her a small leather bag. "There is money inside and enough food for several days." Lyra looked at him in disbelief. "You are helping me. You freed me. I owe you my life." A distant shout echoed from the castle. More guards. They were coming. Darius looked toward the sound. "There is not much time." "Come with me," she suddenly said. The prince looked surprised. "I cannot." "Why?" "Because I have unfinished business in this kingdom." His silver eyes darkened. "Someone murdered my father. Someone chained me beneath this castle for 7 years. I intend to learn the truth." Another shout echoed. Closer this time. Darius looked at her again. "There is a village beyond the northern forest. Go there. Do not trust anyone. Not until you know who your enemies are." She stepped forward and hugged him. The prince froze. No one had embraced him in years. "Thank you," she whispered. His eyes softened. "Live Lyra. That will be thanks enough." She released him and started toward the forest. Rain soaked her clothes within moments. She looked back one last time. The prince still stood by the gate, watching, protecting. Then she disappeared among the trees. The forest was dark. The storm seemed endless. Branches scratched her skin. Cold wind cut through her dress. But she kept moving. Hours passed. Her legs became heavy. Her breathing grew weak. "The child. I have to protect the child." She repeated those words again and again. Suddenly a sound came from behind. Footsteps. Many footsteps. She turned. Torches burned between the trees. They had followed her. Panic filled her chest. She began to run. Faster. Branches whipped against her face. Voices shouted behind her. "There she is. Do not let her escape." One arrow flew past her and struck a tree. Another landed near her feet. Tears blurred her vision. Why are they doing this? She stumbled, then kept running. The ground became uneven. Snow began to fall. The forest had reached the northern mountains. She could barely feel her fingers. The torches behind her grew closer. Then suddenly another pain twisted through her body. She fell to her knees. "No, please not now." She wrapped her arms around her stomach. "You must be safe." The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. She forced herself up and ran again. A bright light suddenly appeared ahead. Moonlight. The trees ended. Beyond them stood an enormous white gate. Ancient. Beautiful. She had never seen it before. Who would build a gate here? Her vision blurred. She took another step. Then another. The voices behind her seemed far away now. Very far. The world tilted. She collapsed into the snow. The last thing she saw was the great white gate slowly opening. Figures dressed in silver rushed toward her. One woman knelt beside her. Then the stranger looked into Lyra's face. The woman gasped. "Impossible." She touched the silver moon-shaped birthmark behind Lyra's ear. Then she whispered words that changed everything. "The lost princess has come home." And darkness swallowed Lyra whole. Warmth. That was the first thing Lyra felt. Not cold snow. Not rain. Warmth. Something soft rested beneath her head. A blanket covered her body. For a long moment she remained still. Then she heard voices. Quiet. Concerned. A fire crackled nearby. She slowly opened her eyes. Sunlight poured through tall white windows. The room was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls were carved from pale stone that shimmered like moonlight. Silver curtains moved gently in the breeze. Fresh flowers filled the air with a sweet scent. For one confused moment, she wondered if she had died. Then a woman stepped beside the bed. She was beautiful and elegant with silver streaks in her dark hair and kind gray eyes. The woman smiled. "You are awake." Lyra tried to sit up. Pain shot through her body. "Easy," the woman said gently. "You were exhausted when our guards found you." Lyra touched her stomach at once. The woman noticed and nodded. "Your child is safe." A breath escaped her lips. "Thank the moon goddess." The woman sat beside her. "Do you know where you are?" Lyra slowly shook her head. "You are in the Moon Kingdom." The words meant nothing at first. Then her eyes widened. The Moon Kingdom. That kingdom had disappeared many years ago. People called it a legend. A lost realm. A kingdom destroyed by war. "That is impossible," she whispered. The woman smiled softly. Many things that seem impossible are true. Silence settled between them. Then the woman reached out and gently moved a strand of hair from Lyra's face. Do you know why our guards brought you here? No. Because of this. The woman touched the small birthmark behind Lyra's ear. A silver crescent moon. Lyra had carried it all her life. My mother told me it was nothing. The woman looked at her sadly. Your mother lied to protect you. A strange feeling spread through Lyra's chest. Who are you? The woman stood. I am Lady Elena. I served your parents. The room suddenly became very quiet. My parents. Lady Elena's eyes filled with emotion. You are Princess Lyra Mooncrest, the last daughter of the Moon Kingdom. The world seemed to stop. No. She sat up despite the pain. No. That cannot be true. I am an Omega servant. I cleaned stables. I washed floors. I have no kingdom. Lady Elena took her hand. You had one. Years ago your parents were betrayed. Enemies wanted the royal bloodline destroyed. To save you they sent you away in secret. Lyra stared at her. Tears slowly filled her eyes. My parents. Lady Elena lowered her head. They died believing you would one day return. Silence. Long and painful. Then the tears came. Everything she had ever believed about herself had been a lie. She was not an unwanted servant. She was not ordinary. She was a princess. Lady Elena wrapped her arms around her. Cry, child. You have carried too much pain. And Lyra did. She cried for the parents she never knew. She cried for the life that had been stolen from her. She cried for the girl who had spent years believing she was nothing. Days passed, then weeks. The Moon Kingdom slowly became her home. She learned its history, its people, its secrets. The hidden kingdom had survived by remaining unseen among the northern mountains. Every person there treated her with kindness. No one called her worthless. No one looked down on her. For the first time in her life, she belonged somewhere. Then one morning, she stood on a balcony overlooking the white city. Snow covered the rooftops. Children laughed below. Lady Elena joined her. You were smiling. Lyra touched her lips. She had not realized it. I think I am happy. You deserve happiness. A sudden movement made her look down. Her hand rested on her stomach. She had begun to show. The child was growing. No, not child. Children. The royal healer had laughed when he discovered the truth. Twins. You carry twins. The memory still made her smile. At night she spoke to them. She told them stories. She promised she would protect them, no matter what happened. Months passed like falling snow. Then one winter night the pains began. The palace burst into motion. Servants hurried through the halls. Healers rushed into her chamber. Lady Elena never left her side. Hours passed. Then another wave of pain came. Lyra cried out. You can do this, Lady Elena whispered. You are stronger than you know. The storm outside grew louder. Then at last a tiny cry filled the room. A baby. Moments later another cry followed. 2 children. 2 perfect children. A boy and a girl. Tears filled Lyra's eyes as the healer placed them in her arms. The boy had dark hair. The girl had silver blonde hair. Both had bright silver eyes. They were beautiful. They were hers. What will you call them? She looked at the sleeping babies. Leo and Luna. Lady Elena smiled. The names suit them. Lyra kissed their tiny foreheads. At that moment she made another promise. No one would ever hurt them. Years passed. The frightened servant girl slowly disappeared. A different woman emerged. She trained every day. Sword lessons, leadership lessons, history, politics, combat. She learned how to fight, how to lead, how to command. The people loved her. The lost princess had returned. The future queen had awakened. One evening she stood in the training yard holding a sword. Snow drifted through the air. Her long silver blonde hair moved in the wind. She looked strong now, confident, a queen. Suddenly laughter echoed nearby. Leo and Luna raced across the yard. They were 5 years old. They looked so much like their father that it sometimes hurt. Leo tripped. Before he hit the ground something strange happened. The snow beneath him rose. It caught him. Luna laughed. Then several flowers suddenly bloomed through the snow around her feet. The entire yard became silent. Lady Elena looked shocked. The children looked confused. Mother, did we do that? Lyra slowly walked toward them. The air itself seemed different. Magic, ancient and powerful. Lady Elena whispered. It has begun. What has begun? The children carry royal magic, the strongest bloodline in generations. Lyra stared at her twins. A strange feeling settled inside her. Pride, wonder, and fear. Because power always attracted enemies. Then a palace guard came running into the yard. Your Highness. His face looked pale. A rider has arrived from the north. He carries a message. For a moment everything inside Lyra grew still. The north. There was only one kingdom there. The kingdom she had left behind. The kingdom of Alpha King Kale Ravencrest. The guard swallowed hard. The rider says the Alpha King has been searching for you. For 5 years. And now he believes you are alive. The words seemed to freeze the air. The Alpha King has been searching for you. Lyra stood motionless in the training yard. Snow drifted softly around her. Leo and Luna looked up at her with curious eyes. Mother, who is the Alpha King? She could not answer, because the name had already awakened memories she had tried to bury. A dark dungeon, a golden bond, a public rejection, a broken heart. 5 years had passed, and yet the pain still lived somewhere deep inside her. The guard lowered his head. The rider is waiting in the palace. Lady Elena stepped forward. You do not have to meet him. Lyra looked at her children. No, I do. She took Leo and Luna by the hands and walked toward the palace. The children skipped beside her happily. They knew nothing about the man who had changed all their lives. Inside the great hall, a rider dressed in black armor waited beside the throne. He immediately knelt. Your Highness. Lyra stopped. No one had ever called her that before she came to the Moon Kingdom. What message do you bring? The rider looked nervous. My king wishes to know if Princess Lyra Mooncrest truly lives. The entire hall became silent. Who told him that name, she asked. An old healer from the border villages. He saw your royal crest during a festival and sent word north. Lyra's fingers tightened. So Kale finally knew. The rider carefully pulled out a sealed letter. The Alpha King asks for a meeting. No. She answered so quickly that even she looked surprised. The rider blinked. Your Highness. I said no. Her voice was calm now. I have no business with the Alpha King. The rider lowered his head. As you wish. He left the hall without another word. The doors closed. Silence remained. Then Luna looked up at her. Mother, why do you look sad? Lyra knelt and gently touched her daughter's face. I am not sad. That was a lie. Because her heart suddenly felt heavy. That night she could not sleep. Moonlight spilled across her chamber. Snow covered the gardens outside. She stood near the window and looked toward the northern mountains. Somewhere beyond them was Ravencrest. Somewhere beyond them was the man who had rejected her. Why are you awake? Lady Elena entered carrying 2 cups of tea. Lyra accepted one. I thought I had forgotten him. But you did not. She sighed. No. A long silence followed. Then Lady Elena spoke softly. Do you still love him? The question surprised her. She looked at the moon. I do not know. I love the man I thought he could be, not the man he became. Lady Elena nodded. That sounds like an answer. Lyra smiled sadly. Perhaps. Far away in Ravencrest Castle another person could not sleep. Kale sat alone in his throne room. The fire had long gone cold. A faded blue scarf rested in his hands. He had carried it for 5 years. It belonged to Lyra. She had forgotten it in the stable the night she disappeared. He remembered finding it. He remembered searching the forest. He remembered finding blood in the snow. For a long time he had believed she was dead. The thought had nearly destroyed him. The doors opened. Prince Darius entered. He looked healthier now. The years had been kind to him since his freedom. You are awake again. Kel did not look up. I cannot sleep. Because of her. Kel finally raised his eyes. I received news today. Darius crossed his arms. I know. She lives. A long silence followed. Then Kel whispered. She lives. He sounded like a man speaking of a miracle. Darius studied his brother. 5 years, and you still look at that scarf every night. Kel said nothing. You regret it. Kel closed his eyes. Every day. The words came out quietly, heavy with pain. I made the greatest mistake of my life. Darius walked toward the window. Then why did you do it? Because I was a fool. The answer came instantly. I believed lies. I believed fear. I thought she had helped you escape. I thought she had come to destroy us. Instead she saved us all. His hands tightened around the scarf. And I destroyed her. For the first time in years there was no anger in Darius's face. Only sadness. Then go to her. Cale shook his head. What if she hates me? Darius laughed softly. She has every reason to. The words hurt because they were true. Then the prince became serious. But if you do not go, then you will regret it for the rest of your life. Cale looked into the fire. I already do. Darius placed a hand on his shoulder. Then stop sitting in darkness. Fight for her. Fight for your second chance. Cale stared at the scarf for a very long time. Then a servant rushed into the throne room. Your Majesty. The servant was breathless. A royal messenger has arrived. He carries an invitation. An invitation. The servant handed him a silver envelope. Cale broke the seal. His eyes widened. What is it? Darius asked. Cale slowly looked up. The Moon Kingdom is holding a royal gathering. All northern rulers have been invited. Darius smiled. Interesting. Cale's heart began to beat faster. At the bottom of the invitation was a name. Princess Lyra Mooncrest, the host of the gathering. His hands trembled. It was her. She was not a servant. She was a princess. A princess. Darius stared at him. Now you know why the moon goddess chose her. Cale could barely breathe. Everything suddenly made sense. The kindness. The courage. The strange feeling that she was meant for something greater. She had never been ordinary. She had been royalty all along. He looked at the invitation again. There was only one thought in his mind. He would see her again. After 5 years. He would finally look into her eyes. And perhaps ask for forgiveness. At that same moment in the Moon Kingdom, a servant entered Lyra's chamber. Your Highness, the royal tailors have arrived. For what? Lady Elena smiled. For the gathering. You cannot invite every ruler in the north and then hide in your room. Lyra sighed. I do not wish to see him. Lady Elena stepped closer. Sometimes fate does not ask what we wish. Sometimes it simply opens a door. She looked toward the snow outside. The gathering begins in 3 weeks. And whether you are ready or not, the Alpha King is coming. 3 weeks passed like falling snow. Then the day finally arrived. The Moon Kingdom had never looked more beautiful. Silver banners hung from every tower. Thousands of white lanterns lined the palace gardens. Music floated through the crisp evening air. Carriages from every kingdom rolled through the great gates. Kings, queens, alphas, nobles. The entire north had gathered beneath one roof. Inside the grand ballroom, servants hurried from table to table. Crystal chandeliers glowed like stars above the guests. Laughter and conversation filled every corner of the hall. Then another carriage entered the palace grounds. Black, elegant, marked with the crest of Ravencrest. The conversations near the entrance immediately grew quieter. Alpha King Cale Ravencrest had arrived. Cale stepped out of the carriage, wearing black royal clothing trimmed with silver. 5 years had changed him. There were faint shadows beneath his eyes. A few strands of silver now touched his dark hair. Regret had a way of changing a man. Prince Darius stepped beside him. You look nervous. Cale almost laughed. I have faced wars and never felt this way. Darius smiled. Then perhaps this battle matters more. They entered the palace. Every noble turned to look at them. Whispers quickly spread through the ballroom. The Alpha King has come. Do you think the rumors are true? Is the lost princess really his rejected mate? Cale ignored every word. His eyes searched the room, but she was nowhere to be seen. A servant approached and bowed. Their highnesses will arrive shortly. Cale nodded. His heart beat a little faster. 5 years. 5 long years. He had imagined this moment countless times. Would she hate him? Would she refuse to speak to him? Would she even look at him? The music suddenly stopped. The large doors at the end of the ballroom slowly opened. Silence spread through the room. Every head turned. A woman entered. For a moment Cale forgot how to breathe. Lyra. Her silver blonde hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. She wore a gown of white and silver that shimmered like moonlight. A delicate crown rested upon her head. She looked nothing like the frightened servant girl he remembered. She looked like a queen. Strong. Beautiful. Untouchable. The entire ballroom stood in stunned silence. She walked with calm grace through the center of the room. At her side were 2 small children. A boy. A girl. They looked about 5 years old. The little girl wore a white dress and held tightly to her mother's hand. The little boy wore a tiny silver jacket and looked around with endless curiosity. Cale could not look away. Something inside him twisted. The children seemed strangely familiar. Then the boy looked up. Silver eyes. The same silver eyes that stared back at him every morning from his own reflection. His breath caught. No, it could not be. Lyra finally lifted her gaze. Their eyes met. The entire world disappeared. No music. No guests. Only silence. 5 years of pain stood between them. Cale saw every memory in her blue eyes. The dungeon. The rejection. The night she disappeared. He took one step forward. Lyra looked away. The movement hurt more than he expected. The royal announcer finally spoke, presenting Her Royal Highness Princess Lyra Mooncrest and the royal heirs of the Moon Kingdom. The hall erupted with whispers. Royal heirs. Cale stared at the children. A strange feeling spread through his chest. The little girl smiled brightly at someone across the room. The little boy folded his arms exactly the way Cale always did. Darius suddenly looked at him. Brother. I know. His voice barely existed. I know. The children. The ages matched. The timing matched. And those eyes. Moon goddess. The children were his. The realization hit him like a storm. He had children. He had missed their first steps. Their first words. Their first years. Because of his own mistake. Pain flashed across his face. Darius quietly touched his shoulder. Go to them. Cale swallowed hard. His legs suddenly felt heavy. Still he walked. One step. Then another. Lyra saw him coming. Her expression remained calm. Only her fingers tightened around her daughter's hand. He stopped before her. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Cale lowered his head. You look well. She gave a polite nod. Your Majesty. The formal words cut him deeply. I am glad you are alive. Another polite nod. Thank you. Silence returned. The children looked up at him with curiosity. The little girl smiled. Hello. Cale looked at her. She had Lyra's smile. His throat tightened. Hello. The little boy stared at him. Then his eyes widened. Mother. The boy pointed at Cale. The entire ballroom became quiet again. Why does that man look like me? Several nobles gasped. Cale's heart stopped. Lyra slowly closed her eyes. Not now. Please not now. The little boy stepped closer to Cale. He studied him carefully. Then he smiled. I know. He turned happily toward his sister. I know who he is. Lyra suddenly looked worried. The little girl blinked. Who? The boy looked directly at Cale. Father. Silence. Absolute silence. It felt as though the entire ballroom had stopped breathing. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the floor. Cale stood frozen. The word echoed through his mind. Father. The little boy smiled proudly. Mother says I ask too many questions, but I am very smart. The little girl nodded. He asks questions all the time. Cale could barely breathe. He slowly looked at Lyra. Tears had appeared in her eyes. Not from sadness. From fear. Because the secret she had protected for 5 years had just been spoken before every ruler in the north. Whispers exploded throughout the hall. The children are his. The Alpha King is heirs. Secret heirs. Cale looked down at the little boy again. The child smiled at him. Without thinking, Cale knelt. His hands trembled. What is your name? Leo. The little girl stepped closer. And I am Luna. Cale looked at both children. His children. His son. His daughter. A happiness so sharp it almost hurt filled his chest. Then he looked at Lyra. Why did you never tell me? Her expression changed. Pain appeared there. The same pain she had carried for years. You rejected me. The words were soft, but they struck him harder than any sword. And once again the Alpha King realized the true cost of his mistake. He had not only lost his mate, he had lost 5 years with his children. Before he could speak, another voice suddenly echoed through the ballroom. How touching! Everyone turned. At the entrance stood a woman dressed in dark green, Celine Blackthorne, and she was smiling, a very dangerous smile. The smile on Celine Blackthorne's face was beautiful and terrifying. She walked slowly into the ballroom as though she belonged there. The whispers began at once. Some nobles looked surprised to see her. Others looked nervous. Cale rose to his feet. His expression darkened. You were not invited. Celine did not stop walking. You once said I would never need an invitation to stand beside you. The words hung in the air. 5 years ago, she had almost become queen. 5 years ago, she had believed the throne would be hers. Then Lyra had returned. Then the children had appeared. And everything had changed. Celine looked at Leo and Luna. A strange light entered her eyes. What lovely children. Lyra immediately moved them behind her. Do not come any closer. Celine laughed softly. Still protective. How sweet. Darius stepped forward. Leave. She looked at him and smiled. Prince Darius, the dead man who refuses to stay dead. The prince's silver eyes turned cold. Your games end tonight. Do they? She sounded amused. I think my games have only just begun. Cale took another step toward her. You should not have come here. She looked at him. And missed this wonderful reunion. Never. The ballroom had become completely silent. Every noble could feel it. Something terrible was about to happen. Celine folded her hands. Tell me something, Cale. How does it feel to discover that you rejected your mate and abandoned your own children? Pain flashed across his face. The smile on hers widened. I see. It hurts. Good. Lyra watched her carefully. There was something different about Celine tonight. She did not look defeated. She looked confident, as though she already knew how the night would end. Then Celine's eyes moved to the twins again. Such beautiful children. It would be a shame if something happened to them. The room went cold. Cale's voice became dangerous. Watch your words. Or what? Will you imprison me, as you did your brother? The words hit the room like thunder. Many nobles looked shocked. They knew Darius had disappeared years ago, but they had never known the truth. Darius slowly stepped into the center of the ballroom. Perhaps it is time. Cale looked at him. Brother. No more secrets. The prince faced the gathered nobles. 7 years ago I did not die. I was imprisoned beneath Ravencrest Castle. Gasps spread through the room. I was chained and muzzled like an animal. I spent years in darkness. I watched seasons pass through a tiny window. I listened as the world forgot me. Silence filled the ballroom. Every face had turned pale. Cale lowered his head. Because of one lie. Darius looked directly at Celine. A lie created by her. The room erupted with whispers. Celine simply smiled. A dangerous accusation. Darius reached inside his coat. Then he removed a small silver ring. I found this in my father's chamber on the night he died. He held it high. It carries the crest of House Blackthorn. Celine's smile finally faded. Many nobles recognized the ring. It belonged to her family. The prince's voice grew harder. I saw her leave my father's chamber. I followed her. She poisoned him. The entire hall exploded. No. Impossible. She killed the king. Celine slowly began clapping. Wonderful. Simply wonderful. You finally found your courage. Cale stared at her. Tell me it is not true. For the first time in years there was fear in his voice. Celine looked at him. Then she laughed. A long and cold laugh. Why would I lie? Every eye widened. You truly are slow, Cale. Yes. I poisoned your father. The words struck like lightning. The room fell into stunned silence. I love power. I love the throne. But your father planned to give part of the kingdom to Darius. I could never allow that. She smiled again. So I removed him. Cale looked as though he could not breathe. And you. She pointed at Darius. You saw me leave the chamber. You became dangerous. So I convinced your dear brother that you murdered your father. Darius looked at Cale. I begged you to listen. Cale closed his eyes. Memories flooded back. The accusations. The evidence. The anger. He had never asked enough questions. He had simply believed. I trusted you, Celine, he whispered. I know. That is why it was so easy. The words shattered something inside him. Then Celine looked at Lyra. And then you arrived. A servant girl who ruined everything. You freed the prince. You became his mate. You gave him heirs. I hate you for that. Lyra did not move. She simply stood in front of her children. Celine's eyes darkened. You should have died in that forest 5 years ago. The room froze. Cale slowly lifted his head. What did you say? The assassins were very expensive. I paid them myself. The confession echoed through the ballroom. Lyra felt her blood run cold. It had been her. She had tried to kill her. She had tried to kill the children before they were even born. Cale's eyes burned with rage. You hunted a pregnant woman. She gave a careless shrug. I did what was necessary. For one terrifying moment, everyone saw the wolf beneath the king. His eyes turned bright gold. The air itself seemed to shake. Guards. No one moved. Arrest her. Several guards stepped forward. Then something unexpected happened. Celine smiled. A very calm smile. I was wondering how long this would take. The doors of the ballroom suddenly burst open. Men dressed in black stormed inside. Armed men. Mercenaries. Swords flashed. Guests screamed. The guards quickly formed a line. Celine stepped backward. You did not think I would come here alone. Cale moved toward Lyra and the children. Stay behind me. Leo looked frightened. Mother. What is happening? Lyra pulled both children close. Everything will be all right. But even she was no longer certain. Celine's voice echoed through the chaos. I may lose the throne tonight, but I will not leave empty-handed. Her eyes settled on the twins. The heirs. Cale's face changed. No. It happened in seconds. Smoke bombs exploded across the ballroom. Dark smoke filled the air. People screamed. Children cried. The room vanished into confusion. Cale could not see. Darius could not see. Lyra held tightly to her children. Then a hand grabbed her shoulder. She turned. Nothing but smoke. Another hand pulled at her arm. Then came a cry. Mother. Leo. Luna. The small hand slipped from hers. No. The smoke began to clear. Too slowly. Far too slowly. The doors of the ballroom slammed open. Cold night air rushed inside. Celine stood at the entrance. One mercenary held Leo. Another carried Luna. The children were crying. Mother. Help us. Lyra's heart broke. Cale roared. Celine smiled one last time. Catch me if you can. Then she disappeared into the night. And for the second time in his life, the Alpha King watched his family being taken away from him. The cry of a mother can shake mountains. Lyra's scream echoed through the palace. Leo. Luna. She ran toward the doors, but Cale caught her before she could fall down the steps. They're gone. My babies are gone. Tears streamed down her face. For 5 years, she had protected them from every danger. And now they had been taken right in front of her. Cale held her shoulders. Look at me. She could barely breathe. I will bring them back. I swear it. Her blue eyes met his. There was no king standing before her now. There was only a father. A desperate father. Darius appeared beside them. I found tracks outside. They went toward the western forest. Cale released Lyra and turned. Prepare horses. No. Lyra's voice stopped him. She wiped her tears. I am coming too. It is dangerous. Those are my children. Nobody could argue with the fire in her eyes. Within minutes the palace yard exploded into motion. Soldiers armed themselves. Torches were lit. Horses stamped against the snow. Cale mounted his horse and looked at Lyra. Stay close to me. She climbed onto her own horse. I do not need protection. The answer surprised him. 5 years ago, she would have trembled before a storm. Now she looked like a warrior. The gates opened. The rescue began. The night was bitterly cold. Snow covered the forest paths. The moon hung above like a silver eye. The riders moved quickly. Darius led the way. The tracks are fresh. They cannot be far. A few minutes later they found something lying in the snow. A tiny white ribbon. Luna's ribbon. Lyra picked it up. Her hands shook. She left this for us. She is trying to show us the way. Cale looked at the ribbon. Pride filled his chest. His daughter was brave. They rode deeper into the forest. Then another clue appeared. A small wooden wolf. Leo's favorite toy. Cale picked it up. His throat tightened. The children were helping them. The forest slowly became darker. Then smoke appeared in the distance. Darius stopped his horse. There, beyond the trees, stood an old hunting lodge. Light glowed through the windows. Mercenaries guarded the doors. Cale's eyes turned gold. They are inside. Lyra gripped her sword. Then let us bring them home. The attack happened quickly. Like lightning. The soldiers rushed forward. Swords clashed. Men shouted. The quiet forest exploded into chaos. Cale shifted into his wolf. A massive black creature with glowing golden eyes. He tore through the mercenaries like a storm. Darius shifted beside him. 2 giant wolves fought side by side, the same way they had as children. Lyra entered through the front door. Her sword flashed. One man stepped in her path. She struck his hand and sent his weapon flying. Another attacked. She kicked him backward. Years of training had changed her. She was no longer the servant girl. She was a princess, a mother, a queen. Then she heard crying, "Mother." She ran toward the sound. A door stood at the end of the hallway. She threw it open. Leo and Luna sat inside tied with ropes. The moment they saw her, they burst into tears. "Mother." Lyra dropped to her knees and held them tightly. "I am here. I am here." The children clung to her. She kissed their foreheads again and again. "Did they hurt you?" Luna shook her head. "The bad lady scared us." Leo looked angry. "I tried to bite her." Despite everything, Lyra almost smiled. That sounded exactly like his father. Then slow clapping echoed from behind. She turned. Celine stood in the doorway. A knife gleamed in her hand. The smile on her face looked almost insane. Beautiful. A perfect family reunion. Lyra slowly stood. "Stay away from my children." Celine closed the door behind her. "No. I think I have stayed away long enough." Her eyes looked empty now. "Everything I wanted is gone because of you. You destroyed your own life." The answer made Celine furious. She raised the knife. "You stole my throne. I never wanted your throne. You stole Kale. I never wanted him either." The words seemed to surprise even Lyra. For a second she realized they were true. She had never wanted power, never wanted a crown. She had only wanted love. Celine laughed. "Then why are you still standing? Why did fate choose you? Why did it never choose me?" Tears suddenly appeared in her eyes. "I gave everything. I lied. I killed. I waited for years. And still I lost." Her hand trembled. Lyra looked at her carefully. For the first time she saw something beneath all that hatred. Loneliness. A woman who had destroyed herself chasing power. "It is over, Celine." "No." She suddenly screamed. "It will never be over." She rushed forward with the knife. At the same moment the door burst open. Kale entered. He saw the blade, saw it aimed at Lyra. Without thinking, he threw himself between them. The knife sank into his side. Everything stopped. Celine stared at what she had done. Kale! Blood stained his clothes. Lyra caught him before he fell. "No, no." Her hands shook. Kale looked at her. "I promised I would protect you. Do not speak. You still cry for me." Tears ran down her face. "Of course I do." Something warm entered his eyes. For a moment neither of them saw anyone else. Then guards rushed into the room. Celine tried to escape. Darius blocked the doorway. "It ends tonight." She looked around desperately. There was nowhere left to run. The children held tightly to their mother. The room became very quiet. Then Celine slowly dropped the knife. At last she looked tired. Very tired. "Take me away," she whispered. The guards seized her. As they led her out, she looked back once. At Kale. At Lyra. At the children. Then she laughed softly. "Tomorrow the kingdom will watch me fall." "No," Darius said. "Tomorrow the kingdom will learn the truth." Morning came. The entire city gathered in the palace square. A platform had been built. Nobles stood on one side, common people on the other. Everyone had come to witness the trial. Celine stood in chains. Her crimes were read aloud. The murder of the former king. The imprisonment of Prince Darius. The attempted murder of Princess Lyra. The kidnapping of the royal heirs. Silence followed. Then the people began to shout, "Justice! Justice!" Lyra stood beside Kale. His wound had been treated. The children stood between them. Kale looked at her. "This is your moment." She stepped forward. The crowd slowly became quiet. "I once stood before a kingdom and was called worthless. I was rejected, humiliated, hunted. But I stand here today not because I wanted revenge. I stand here because truth always returns, and because no child should ever lose their family to greed and hatred." The people listened in silence. Then they began to cheer. Louder and louder. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. Then, suddenly a shout came from the palace. "Fire!" Everyone turned. Smoke rose into the sky. Then flames burst from one of the towers. The palace was burning. And in the confusion someone screamed, "The royal archives! The ancient records are inside." Darius suddenly went pale. "The records, the treasure maps, the secrets of the Moon Kingdom. They cannot burn." Without another word he ran toward the flames. And before anyone could stop her, Lyra ran after him. Flames climbed the palace tower like hungry wolves. Smoke rolled across the sky. People shouted. Guards rushed in every direction carrying buckets of water. But Darius was already running toward the burning building. Lyra followed him. Behind her, she heard Kale calling her name. She did not stop. The old archive stood inside that tower. The records of the Moon Kingdom. The history of her family. The secrets her parents had died protecting. They could not be lost. Heat struck her face as she reached the entrance. The wooden doors had already caught fire. Darius kicked them open. Smoke poured out. "Stay behind me," he said. Then he disappeared inside. Lyra covered her mouth and followed. The room was filled with fire and falling ash. Ancient shelves lined the walls. Hundreds of scrolls. Hundreds of books. Centuries of history. The flames were eating everything. Over here, Darius shouted. At the back of the room stood a large stone cabinet. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. The prince pulled on a metal ring. Nothing happened. Again. Nothing. The ceiling groaned above them. "We need to leave," Lyra said. "Not yet. There is something inside this cabinet." "How do you know?" "Because my father once told me. If darkness ever falls upon our family, then seek the hidden moon." Darius touched one of the carvings. A crescent moon. He pressed it. A loud click echoed through the room. The cabinet slowly opened. Inside lay a small wooden chest. The flames suddenly seemed to roar louder. The ceiling shook. Darius grabbed the chest. "Now we run." They turned. A burning beam crashed between them and the door. Lyra stumbled backward. The way out was gone. Smoke filled her lungs. Darius looked around. There. A narrow staircase led upward. They climbed quickly, step after step. The heat grew worse. Finally they reached the top of the tower. There was nowhere else to go. Below them the palace yard had become chaos. Kale looked up and his face turned white. "Lyra!" She could hear him shouting. The tower trembled. A section of the roof collapsed. Darius looked at the chest in his hands. Then at his brother below. "There is another way down." "Where?" He pointed. A narrow stone bridge connected the tower to the eastern wall. Part of it had already broken away. It looked dangerous. Very dangerous. Darius took a breath. "I will go first." He stepped onto the bridge. The old stones creaked. Then he reached the other side. "Come." Lyra looked down. The ground seemed very far away. "You can do this," Darius called. She took one step, then another. The bridge shook. Smoke surrounded her. Halfway across she heard a loud crack. No. The stones beneath her feet began to break. Lyra jumped. A section of the bridge collapsed behind her. Strong arms caught her. "Kale!" He pulled her against him. For one long moment neither of them moved. Then he wrapped his arms around her. "You always run into danger." A weak laugh escaped her. "I suppose I do." He touched her face. "And every time I fear I will lose you again." The words were quiet, honest. Before she could answer, Darius held up the wooden chest. I think this is what the fire was truly after. They gathered in the palace hall while the flames were finally brought under control. The chest was placed upon a table. Everyone watched. Darius slowly opened it. Inside lay old scrolls, ancient maps, and one sealed letter. The seal carried the symbol of the Moon Kingdom. Lady Elena gasped. "That seal belonged to your father." Lyra carefully opened the letter. The handwriting was beautiful. She began to read. "To my daughter. If these words reach you, then fate has returned you to your true home. I leave behind the location of our hidden treasury, not because of gold, but because inside it rests the crown of the first Moon Queen, the true symbol of our bloodline. Guard it well, and remember, a kingdom is not built by power. It is built by love." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She touched the letter gently. A map fell from the chest. Darius spread it across the table. The treasure still exists. The next morning they followed the map into the mountains. The journey was short. By sunset they stood before a hidden cave. Inside they found chests filled with gold, ancient weapons, jewels, and at the center of the cave stood a silver crown. It seemed to glow beneath the torchlight. Lyra stepped forward. She lifted it carefully. The moment she touched it, a strange warmth spread through her. Lady Elena smiled. The crown recognizes its queen. When they returned to the palace, another surprise awaited them. A messenger had arrived from the Eastern Kingdom. He carried a royal decree. Prince Darius broke the seal. Then he looked stunned. "What is it?" Kale asked. The prince slowly smiled. "The Eastern Kingdom has no heir." Their king has named me his successor. Silence. Then laughter. Darius laughed harder than anyone. After 7 years in chains I become a king. Life truly is strange. Days later the palace square filled once more. But this time there were no chains, no trials, no fear, only celebration. The people gathered to witness the crowning of their queen. Lyra stood upon the platform wearing white and silver. Leo and Luna stood beside her. Cale stood only a few steps away. Lady Elena placed the ancient crown upon Lyra's head. Long live Queen Lyra! The crowd erupted. Thousands of voices filled the sky. Long live the queen! When the cheers finally faded, Cale stepped forward. His face looked unusually nervous. He knelt before her. A king kneeling before a queen. The entire square became silent. I rejected you when I should have protected you. I doubted you when I should have trusted you. I lost 5 years with my children because of my own pride. He looked up at her. I cannot change the past. But if there is even a small place left in your heart for me, then allow me to spend the rest of my life earning your forgiveness. Silence. A soft wind moved through the square. Leo looked at his mother. Luna held her breath. Everyone waited. Lyra looked at the man before her. The proud Alpha King. The man who had broken her heart. The man who had also crossed kingdoms to find her. Who had fought for their children. Who had taken a knife meant for her. Slowly she stepped forward. Then she held out her hand. Cale looked at it. I cannot promise to forget, she said softly. But perhaps I can learn to forgive. A smile slowly appeared on his face. He took her hand. The crowd erupted once more. Leo cheered loudly. Luna clapped. Darius laughed. Above them the sun broke through the clouds. And for the first time in many years the future felt bright. The beast beneath the castle had become a king. The rejected Omega had become a queen. And the broken family had finally found its way back to one another.